Hey kiddos! Today we're going to be reviewing the geometry terms that we have gone over so far in the chapter. It's really important that you study and work on memorizing the terms because there is so much language, so much new vocabulary in this chapter. So the first thing we looked at was a plane. A plane is a flat surface and it extends indefinitely in all directions, meaning that it continues forever and ever and ever. This plane or flat surface can go horizontally, vertically, diagonally. It can go in all different directions. And there are many things that are in our lives that are part of a plane. So for example, the flat top of a table would be part of a plane. A piece of paper is part of a plane. So here we see two different planes. All right, so when you think of 2D shapes, those are plane shapes. Another term that we went over this week is a point. A point names a location in space. So oftentimes we see points on a map, and the way that a point is labeled is it's drawn as a dot, kind of like a period. So when we see points on a map, you see different dots. For example, this point right here is San Diego. This point right here is San Francisco. We also see points on a number line. So here's our number line. The point, this is point 2 on this number line. A point can name any location in space, and you can name a point anything you'd like. We will be looking at points that are labeled or named with letters. So for example, right here, this is point A. Here we have point B. This is point X. So again, remember that a point is a period. So think PP, point, period. And it names a location in space, whether it be a point on a line, a point in a circle, etc. Our next word is line. So remember in math, in geometry, a line is straight. So we studied lines in art this year, and we studied curved lines and jagged lines. But remember in geometry that lines are always straight. When we draw them, we use rulers. And a line is a set of points, so there's that word points, okay, that extends forever in opposite directions. So the way that we know that this line goes on forever is that there are two arrows, one arrow on this end, one arrow on this end, and that's telling us that the line goes forever this way, it never stops, and it goes forever this way. We would name this line, line GH, or line HG, and it's written like this. So because the line can go either way, it can be line GH or HG. And the way that we know it's a line is because the symbol on top is a line with an arrow on each side. So that lets us know it's not a line segment, but it is a line that continues on forever. Our next word that we looked at is a line segment. And the difference between a line and a line segment is a line segment is just a part of that line. So that line goes on forever and ever. The line segment is a chunk of it, just a part of it that we're looking at. And it always has two endpoints. So this line segment would be called line segment DE or line segment ED. And it looks like this. Okay, so we would write it similarly to how we write a line, but you'll notice that there are not arrows at the ends, and that's because it's a segment, it does not go on forever. So you simply have to just do a straight line on top. So we would name this line segment DE or ED, okay? All right, so here's your pop quiz. We did this one in class already, so you should be able to master it. But I want you to pause, and then I want you to think about which one of these is a line, which one is a line segment, and which one is a point, and then how would you name or write each of these using the symbols that I just showed you. So go ahead and pause and try that right now. Okay, so which one was the line? You're right, it was this one. Which one was the line segment? Right here. And you know what? These dots should actually be moved to the end because they are end points. And then here is our point, point B. Great. Okay, then the next word we looked at was array. Okay, array is also part of a line, and it starts at an end point, but then it goes on forever in one direction. So it's kind of a combination between a line segment and a line, because in one direction it goes forever, the other direction it stops. It has an end point. When we write rays, Unlike lines and line segments, there's only one way to write it. You always write it with the end point first. So because K we see as the end point, there is no arrow, you would write it KJ. And you'll notice that there's a line with an arrow at the top. That's a symbol for a ray. The way I like to think of it is a ray of sun. That's how I memorize it. It starts at an end point, it starts at the sun, and then it goes on forever and ever. So think of ray, ray of sun. And remember it has an end point and an arrow. Okay, so that's a ray. The next word is an angle. So what is an angle? Let's go ahead and peek. Oops, sorry. An angle is formed by two rays. So here we see one ray, here we see another ray. It always has the same end point, and that has a special name. It's called a vertex. This is another word that you're going to need to know for your quiz. So a vertex is simply an end point on an angle. Okay, so here's one side, here's another side. Here's one ray, here's another ray. So notice it starts at an end point, it goes on forever. This is the actual angle that we look at. So when we measure angles, you're looking at this portion right here. There's a couple different ways that you can name this angle. Since this is the actual angle, we name it after the vertex. So it's called angle Q. You can also, there's other ways that you can name it. You could also name it angle PQR or angle RQP, as long as that vertex letter is always in the middle, like you see written down here. Okay, so that's an angle. An angle is two rays put together, and they have the common endpoint that is a vertex. The rays form the sides of the angle. So I want you to pause in just a moment and go ahead and name this angle, and I want you to try writing it all three ways. Okay, so go ahead and pause and do that now. There are 4 different types of angles, and we talked about these in class, and you're going to laugh at my silly voice, but the way that I remember them, there are big angles, there are small angles, there are angles that are 90 degrees, those are kind of the middle angles, and then there are straight angles. So the first one is a right angle. A right angle makes a perfect square. That's called a 90-degree angle. When we use a protractor to measure angles, okay, this is 90 degrees. So for example, the corner of a piece of paper, the corner of a table, the corner of a door, the edge from the wall to the ceiling. That's a 90-degree angle. Okay, so that's called a right angle. The next type of angle that we look at is called an acute angle, or like I like to call it, acute, because it's so small and so cute. So the way that we remember it is any angle that is less than 90 degrees, so smaller than a right angle, is an acute angle because it's so small and so cute. All right. Angles that are larger than 90 degrees, larger than a right angle, are called obtuse angles. And I like to say obtuse, like I think of obese, okay? A big fat angle, a wide angle, an angle bigger than 90 degrees. And then a straight angle is pretty explanatory. 180 degrees is perfectly flat and straight. It's a line. So when the angle measures 180 degrees, that's considered a straight angle. All right, so you'll need to have those 4 different types of angles memorized as well. So what type of angle is this? That's right, it's an acute angle. We know because it's smaller than 90 degrees. Try writing down the name of this angle in 3 ways. Go ahead and pause and do that now. What type of angle is this? Well, what I see is a perfect square. So I know that it's a right angle. Okay, so this is 90 degrees, this is a right angle. Go ahead and try writing it. Here, this is a straight line, it's 180 degrees, so we know it's a straight angle. And here, big fat wide angle, not straight, not 90 degrees, not 180 degrees, bigger than 90 degrees, so it's obtuse. Okay. Remember I told you, lots of language we have to memorize, but you guys are hanging in there, you're doing awesome. So Intersecting lines was the next term that we looked at. Intersecting lines are lines that meet or cross at a common point. So we see that this line right here, line AB, crosses line CD, and it crosses right here, and we call that point E. So those are called intersecting lines. They cross at point E. Perpendicular lines are special kinds of lines. When they cross, so they are intersecting lines, but when they cross, they form 4 right angles. So this is an example of perpendicular lines. Like I was telling you earlier, it doesn't always have to be a perfect T up in the middle. It could be a T up here, because that still creates those 4 right angles. It could be a T going like this, okay, as long as it still creates those 90-degree angles. Okay, those are called perpendicular lines, and the symbol for a perpendicular line is right here. It's that upside down T, because it makes those 90 degrees. So perpendicular lines are intersecting lines. They're a special type of intersecting lines. This next one is parallel lines. Parallel lines are lines that will never ever intersect. They will never ever cross. These lines will go forever and ever this way, forever and ever this way, and they will never cross each other. They will never intersect, and so they're considered parallel. The symbol for parallel is 2 lines straight down. So I can say that line KL, written right here, is parallel to line MN. Okay, and remember to have our nice symbol on the top so that we know that this is a line, not a line segment. But line segments can also be intersecting, parallel, or perpendicular. So keep that in mind. Last but not least, we studied circles. Okay, a circle is a plane figure. It's 2D. It's flat. And we talked about in class the difference between a circle and an oval. Right? Well, the way that students explained it was a circle is perfectly round. It's perfectly equal. So all points on the circle are an equal distance to the center. From here to here, if we measured, would be the same from here to here, or here to here, or here to here. And there's an infinite amount of ways that we can measure that. But this is an oval, right? And we see that this, from here to here, is much longer than from here to here. That's what makes it an oval and not a circle. Another thing you need to remember is a circle is named by its center point. This is its center point right here. So we would call this circle, circle A. Good. Hang in there. We're almost done. The last couple words, radius and diameter. Radius is from an end point on the circle to the center, so it's halfway. A diameter is all the way across. So here's the radius, and there are infinite amounts of radii around the circle, so from the edge to the center point. A diameter goes all the way across the circle through the center. That's a diameter, okay? And then the third word is a chord. A chord has 2 endpoints on a circle, but it doesn't necessarily go through the center. It can go through the center, but it doesn't have to. So this is called a chord. And we see that right here. Here's another example of a chord. Okay? So here's our diameter. Here's our radius. Notice that they are both line segments. Not lines. They don't go on forever. They are line segments. Okay? So you can go ahead and pause and practice a couple activities here. And then that makes us done for the day. So great job. Thanks for hanging in there for that long review video. But again, use your geometry dictionary to help you study for the quiz tomorrow, and you can pause and review this video to help you study as well. All right. Great job.